Some people don't fear being alone. They don't reach for their phone the moment the room goes quiet. They don't feel uneasy when plans get canceled, and they don't experience solitude as absence. They experience it as relief. In a world that treats constant connection as emotional health, enjoying being alone looks strange, suspicious even. People assume something must be wrong, but psychology tells a very different story. What looks like withdrawal from the outside is often regulation, self-trust, and mental efficiency on the inside. Let's start with the most misunderstood part, the brain. Not all brains need the same amount of stimulation to feel satisfied. Some people are wired to chase novelty, conversation, and activity just to feel normal. Their dopamine system is understimulated, so they seek more input. People who enjoy being alone are often the opposite. They have low dopamine tolerance. Their nervous system reaches optimal stimulation quickly. What excites others overwhelms them. Crowds don't energize them. Noise doesn't motivate them. Constant interaction doesn't feel enriching, it feels draining. So solitude isn't emptiness. It's balance. These individuals rely less on dopamine and more on the acetylcholine system, the neurotransmitter linked to deep focus, learning, introspection, and sustained attention. This is why being alone doesn't feel boring to them. It feels mentally alive. While others need external stimulation to feel something, these people generate meaning internally. That's the first major shift. The second is sensory processing. People who enjoy being alone often have nervous systems tuned to high resolution. They don't just hear words, they hear tone. They don't just see faces, they read minds. They don't just sense presence, they feel emotional undercurrents. Living like this is like experiencing the world in 8K IMAX, while everyone else is watching in 480p. Social environments bombard them with data, unspoken tension, emotional expectations, subtle power dynamics. Solitude reduces noise so their system can recalibrate. This isn't fragility, it's precision. Neuroscience backs this up. Introversion and solitude preference are linked to increased activity and thickness in the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for self-regulation, future planning, moral reasoning, and meaning-making. So when someone who enjoys being alone appears to be doing nothing, their brain is often doing the most demanding work of all, integrating experiences, replaying conversations, refining identity. This is why they don't rush decisions. They hesitate before committing to people, careers, or permanent labels. Not because they're indecisive, but because they experience strong future self-continuity. They know their future self is a stranger, and they refuse to make irreversible choices for someone they haven't met yet. Solitude gives them space to evolve without pressure. Another reason people enjoy being alone is control. Social interaction always carries risk, misinterpretation, rejection, emotional labor, expectation. People who enjoy being alone often learned early, consciously or not, that predictability equals safety. When you're alone, there are no emotional negotiations, no need to manage impressions, no need to explain yourself. This doesn't mean they dislike people. It means they dislike uncontrolled emotional exposure. This is where people confuse unsociability with antisocial behavior. Antisocial means hostility toward others. Unsociability is simply a calm preference for one's own company. People who enjoy being alone aren't rejecting connection. They're rejecting forced connection. They don't want interaction that requires performance. Which brings us to something deeper. Many people who enjoy solitude have experienced subtle forms of emotional instability. Not always trauma, sometimes inconsistency, unpredictable reactions, emotional volatility, conditional acceptance. Over time, this creates what can be called aggressive empathy. They become extremely good at reading emotional temperature. They sense tension instantly. They feel shifts before words appear. That skill keeps you safe, but it's exhausting. So they retreat, not because they're weak, but because awareness burns energy fast. Solitude becomes recovery. There's also an evolutionary explanation. Humans evolved to seek refuge when the environment felt unstable. Enclosed spaces, quiet corners, safe observation points. Solitude activates that ancient survival response. It tells the nervous system, you are protected. That's why people who enjoy being alone often prefer winter, rain, dim lighting, and quiet rooms. The harshness outside makes the sanctuary inside feel soul-satisfyingly perfect. The contrast matters. Another misunderstood trait is attachment. People who enjoy being alone often have internalized security. Their emotional baseline doesn't depend on constant reassurance. They don't panic when messages go unanswered. They don't feel erased by absence. They carry their sense of self with them. That's why they don't miss people the way others do. Not because they don't care, but because connection isn't their only anchor. This also explains why they often have fewer relationships, but deeper ones. They don't scatter attention, they invest it. 5 real connections outperform 100 surface-level interactions. And research consistently shows that depth predicts happiness better than quantity. Another key difference lies in identity fluidity. People who enjoy being alone often resist fixed identities. They don't want to be locked into a version of themselves that no longer fits. Social environments demand consistency. Solitude allows reinvention. Alone, they can think without being observed, change without being questioned, grow without being interrupted. This is also why they often avoid social media. Posting requires performance. Solitude requires honesty, and honesty feels safer. They also co-regulate differently. Instead of loud reassurance, they respond to low-frequency safety signals. Soft music, repetitive motion, familiar routines. Like a cat's purr presence without demand. When they finally do connect, they connect deeply. No distraction, no multitasking, no %, which leads to the final People who enjoy being alone aren't disconnected. They're selective. They understand that attention is currency, energy is limited, and peace is expensive. They don't share every thought because thoughts need space to mature. They don't fill every silence because silence is functional. They don't chase constant connection because identity forms in stillness. So if you enjoy being alone, you're not broken. You're not antisocial. You're not missing out. You've learned something early. That not every experience improves when it's shared. That not every moment needs an audience. That not every connection deserves access. Silence isn't empty. It's where clarity lives. And people who enjoy being alone aren't escaping the world. They're choosing to understand it first.